I see that the right is freaking out over the leaked intelligence report that we did not, in fact, obliterate the Iranian nuclear program.
Some great statements just came out from the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission and from Iran, as you know, that it was complete, total destruction.
Trump crashed out. Is this him crashing out? Is this the crash out you're referring to?
And CNN turned out to be fake news, as always. That's why they have no credibility. That's why they have no viewers. But we're going to read it to you if you haven't seen it. Have you seen it, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Have you seen it?
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Pretty good. Very unfair to the pilots that risk their lives for our country. And then they get fake news, New York Times and CNN, make up a phony story to get some hits. That's the only reason I cared about it, because those pilots were so brave. I've never seen anything like it. They flew into the hornet's nest, and then they got hurt so badly by what the fake news wrote. And it was CNN, it was the New York Times, and they're both disgusting, really horrible groups of people. The pilots did an unbelievable job like nobody's ever seen. They hit pay dirt. You see where I guess you probably look, they call it the wound. You see where the wound is on the earth, and three of them right next to each other. Perfect. And they should be admired and respected for what they did. And the fake news, in order to try and hit me, the fake news made them look bad, but now they look really good again. So that was the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission. And it was also about the High Commission of Iran. Just said it was totally demolished.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I really do feel like their strategy going forward is just going to be to keep Trump from knowing that the program wasn't obliterated so that he doesn't... I don't know. I have no idea what they're going to do with this, you know? What is this? Trump demands that Israel drop all court proceedings against great wartime Prime Minister Netanyahu. Oh, okay. I think I have a narrative for this. I think I can square this circle, okay? So... my guess is that Netanyahu thought he'd be able to prompt war with Iran to keep his prime ministership going, because he needs to maintain the conflict to justify his leadership in the war cabinet. However, Trump really wants to be the guy who ended the 12-day war, and Trump has probably been pretty insistent on back channels that if this fighting kicks up again, he's going to be really pissed off. I mean... Do you remember the video clip from the other day? You remember this one? Thank you, Annie.
Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
He's actually extremely mad, like uncharacteristically so. Probably because he was like... he was given a bunch of, you know, pep talking about how he's going to be the great president who ended the 12-day war, the big deal maker, everyone's going to remember him, history books, etc. And then when it was clear Iran and Israel had no intention of honoring this fake ceasefire, he got really pissy about it. He wants the branding on lock. So knowing that Donald Trump is actually really committed to keeping the 12-day war ceasefire thing going, somebody had a talk with Trump and said, hey, you know, I don't know, what do you think they would have said to Trump? Do you think they just would have flatly said Netanyahu needed that war to not get impeached and now there's no war? What is he supposed to do? Or do you think they prodded Trump and they were like, hey, radical leftists in Israel want to prosecute Netanyahu for doing such a good job fighting? Isn't that crazy? And then he just tweeted this. It might actually be that. Again, like, it's difficult to underestimate Trump. Breaking news, I was shocked to hear that the state of Israel, which has just had one of its greatest moments in history, and is strongly led by Bibi Netanyahu, is continuing its ridiculous witch hunt against their great wartime prime minister. Bibi and I went through hell together, fighting a very tough and brilliant longtime enemy of Israel, Iran, and Bibi could not have been better sharp. Okay, I think that he wants to imagine himself as... Roosevelt and like Netanyahu is Churchill or something. There's like a narrative in his head that he's trying to preserve desperately that would be marred by reality. like by the fact that the war wasn't really a war, it was just like an exchange of missile fire, by the fact that the nuclear weapons hadn't actually been, or the nuclear refinement facilities hadn't really been obliterated, by the fact that Netanyahu is very unpopular in Israel. Bibi could not have been better, sharper, or stronger in his love for the incredible Holy Land. Anybody else would have suffered losses, embarrassment, and chaos. Bibi Netanyahu was a warrior, like perhaps no other warrior in the history of Israel. And well, maybe Trump is based and he only thinks of Israel in like the modern political like statehood sense. And the result was something that nobody thought was possible: a complete elimination of potentially one of the biggest and most powerful nuclear weapons anywhere in the world, and it was going to happen soon. Okay, seriously though, what the fuck are they going to do when it becomes clear that Iran is still refining uranium? Look at how many videos there are on Fox News trying to get ahead of this. Trump says Iran's nuclear program set back decades. Trump confronts fake news CNN at NATO summit. So this is presumably when CNN asks...
Yes, please, go ahead. Go ahead.
He is like dark orange here.
Oh, fake news CNN?
Here, I'll hold it.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Wait till you hear this question.
Thank you, sir.
You should really say how great our soldiers and our warriors are.
I think everyone appreciates our soldiers and our warriors. I do have two questions for you, Mr. President. You just cited Israeli intelligence on these attacks. Earlier, you said U.S. intelligence was inconclusive. Are you relying on Israeli intelligence for your assessment of the impact of the strikes?
No, this is also Iran made the statement. And it's also, if you read the document that was given, that Pete can talk about if you'd like, the document said it could be very severe damage.
The audio on these microphones is really uncanny, huh? It's like, it really makes it feel like they're just in an elevator talking to each other.
But they didn't take that. They said it could be limited or it could be very severe. They really didn't know, other than to say it could be limited or it could be very, very severe. And you didn't choose to put that because it was very early after. Since then, we've collected additional intelligence. We've also spoken to people who have seen the site, and the site is obliterated. And we think everything nuclear is down there. They didn't take it out. Okay, question? Please, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, blue dress.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Yesterday, you said China can now continue to purchase oil from Iran.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ruta has described President Putin as an adversary.
Because, you know, in the last few weeks...
These are other unrelated questions. Okay, there was a leaked American intelligence report that Republicans have been very pissy about that essentially, like, verified the claim that the Iranian enrichment program has only been set back by months. It has not been obliterated.
So how did this ceasefire deal between
war had governments, and I'm not going to get into anything that's top secret, but let me tell you for sure what happened here. There are three distinct facilities in Iran that we were concerned with. Isfahan, which is a conversion facility. You cannot weaponize unless you have bombs go to, and you can't end enrichment in a successful.
Nobody wants that. I think the best way to deal with it now is if we can get back to the negotiating table.
What is...
Ugh. Sorry. I guess, like, there are a lot of videos on this, though. Trump says Iran's nuclear program was set back decades. Confront fake news CNN. Overwhelming evidence, General Keane, on Iran's nuclear program. Levitt, leaker of intel reports, should go to jail. Peter Doocy, FBI investigating Iran intel leak to CNN, New York Times. Levitt slams CNN's fake news about leaked Iran strike intel. No coincidence. They're trying to blame it, and CNN's defending themselves. They're basically saying, like, because CNN had this information leaked to them, CNN is an enemy of the state, you know?
Thank you both. Good afternoon.
Have been...
is that the strikes have set back Iran's nuclear program.
I said...
Also posting as ineffective on it, Peter.
4 hours ago, Director of National Investigation
is investigating
about how punished.
I understand the FBI is investigating who was the source of that leak because it's an illegal leak to CNN.
What kind of consequence to the leaker face?
They should go to jail.
Jail time. And the White House is hinting that they think the leak came from Capitol Hill, because we are also now told the White House is going to start limiting the classified information that they share with lawmakers as they...
Oh, yeah. Good luck with that. Nothing gets through this administration without it leaking, dude. Good luck with that.
The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt for more on all of this. So the president really went off in The Hague in his news conference on reporting that these strikes may not have done the job here in Iran at the Fordo nuclear facility and others as well.
Is she doing like a new lip thing? Why the fuck is she mewing at me? Why is she doing that?
He also took aim at the outlets that were reporting this. Listen here.
They said it could be limited or it could be very severe. They really didn't know, other than to say it could be limited or it could be very, very severe. And you didn't choose to put that because it was very early after. Since then, we've collected additional intelligence. We've also spoken to people who have seen the site, and the site is obliterated. And we think everything nuclear is down there. They didn't take it out.
So this was a report from the DIA that Fox has confirmed. It was, quote, preliminary and expressed low confidence in the findings. And yet it was all over the news yesterday. It was all the headlines yesterday. What do you say in response?
That's right, John. And President Trump is absolutely right. And he returns to Washington today after a historic NATO summit where he has gotten our NATO allies to finally pay their fair share thanks to his strong leadership on the world stage. And I'd like to take a step back and just acknowledge the history that has been made in the course of the last week thanks to President Trump's strength. 5 days ago, the rogue Iranian regime possessed the capability to create a nuclear weapon that threatened the United States, the state of Israel, and the entire world. And presidents for decades have said, dating back to Bill Clinton, that Iran cannot possess a nuclear weapon. And because of the decisive leadership of President Trump and the skill and the excellence of our United States military, that imminent threat to the United States and the world.
What's even the rationale for making this classified? Because Trump really wants this to be a 12-day war. If Iran still has the ability to enrich uranium, that would immediately reignite the justification. There is no world in which Republicans go, oh, never mind, they still have a bunch of like enriched uranium, but the war's over, so I guess that was that. Like we already, you know, it fucks up everything. So they need to do everything they can to like maintain this, essentially. Yeah, this is the original report from CNN. It was exclusive to CNN, so they were the ones who initially got the leaked report, essentially arguing like, yeah, the damage was not anywhere near as significant as the administration is making it out to be. But also, like, you can't hide this forever, man. Eventually, Iran's gonna start, like, they're gonna start nuke posting again, man. They're gonna nuke post. Why wouldn't they? It's not like they're gonna stop. Why the fuck would they stop?
World has been demolished because of this successful operation on Saturday night. And not only that, but within the span of 48 hours, President Trump was able to turn around and negotiate a successful ceasefire between Israel.
Why is she talking like this? She doesn't normally talk like this. She doesn't normally talk like this or look like this. Is there like is this like a surgery thing? Why is she mewing? Why is she shouting at me? Why do her lips look like that? What's happening? What the chill the fuck out. Is it drugs? Body double? Oh.
Israel and Iran ending this war after just 12 days. No other president in history could have ever dreamed of such a success, and that's exactly why the fake news media is now trying to demean and undermine the president. And we've seen this playbook be run before. You have hostile actors within the intelligence community who illegally leak bits and pieces of an intelligence assessment to push a fake news narrative. And that's what the CNN story was yesterday. And it's not a coincidence that it was written by the exact same CNN reporter who wrote the original story, falsely alleging that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation.
Holy shit, dude. They never let anything go. Years and years ago.
The American public are smarter than this, and they should know the truth. President Trump completely and totally obliterated the capability of Iran to produce a nuclear weapon, and the world is safer today because of his historic efforts.
So this narrative's gonna last like 5 days, dude. It's so transparently false. Yeah, like, I genuinely do not know what they're gonna do with this one, because this isn't, like, there are lots of narratives that they can push against reality, because once it comes out they're lying, there are no consequences. But in this case, if it becomes clear that Iran is still enriching uranium, guess who's going to missile strike Iran? Israel. Netanyahu is not going to give up the opportunity. Like, there's no way. So, like, this is guaranteed to collapse. This is 100% guaranteed to blow up in their face, even in a way that negatively affects them. Trump will have a meltdown on live TV when he finds out this whole thing is fake. So I guess that's what this Truth Social post is about. Somebody gave Trump just enough. Somebody let Trump in on the fact that Netanyahu has been unpopular for years and has had charges against him for years. And he typed all this out. Like they're trying to like find a way to like convince Netanyahu he doesn't need to strike Iran, even if Iran is still enriching uranium, because the charges won't matter anyway. You realize that's what this is for, right? They're giving Trump this information to signal to Netanyahu that Netanyahu doesn't need to engage in military aggression against Iran, even when it becomes public knowledge that Iran is still enriching uranium, because Netanyahu won't need to continue the war effort in order to justify his own. What a mess. What a mess. This is crazy. We were fighting literally for the survival of Israel, and there is nobody in Israel's history that fought harder or more competently than Bibi Netanyahu. Despite all this, I just learned that Bibi has been summoned to court on Monday for the continuation of this long-running. He's been going through this horror show since May of 2020. Unheard of. This is the first time a sitting Israeli prime minister has ever been on trial. He literally just learned about this. It's not a joke. Trump literally, it's been 5 years, and he literally just heard of this. He just heard about this. Politically motivated case concerning cigars, a Bugs Bunny doll, and numerous other unfair charges. I guess that's just quoting the person who gave him this info. In order to do him great harm, such a witch hunt for a man who's given so much is unthinkable to me. He deserves much better than this, and so does the state of Israel. Bibi Netanyahu's trial should be canceled immediately, or a pardon given to a great hero who has done so much for the state. Doesn't work that way. Perhaps there is no one that I know who could have worked in better harmony with the President of the United States, me, than Bibi Netanyahu. It was the United States of America that saved Israel, and now it is going to be the United States of America that saves Bibi Netanyahu. This travesty of justice cannot be allowed. Yeah, I guess Trump pardons Netanyahu or something. Type shit. I don't know. This is such a mess.
At that news conference in The Hague, the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth went off on whoever leaked this and the media outlets that gobbled it up. Listen to what he said.
To spin it for their own political reasons to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak. Of course, we've all seen plenty of leakers. And what do leakers do? They have agendas. And what do? Do they share the whole information or just the part that they want to introduce?
Israel's Atomic Energy Commission had a completely different assessment of what happened at Fordo and Natanz than this preliminary low confidence assessment did. It said that the site was completely destroyed and that the nuclear program's been set back for years. I don't know if you saw it, but last hour we had former IAEA weapons inspector David Albright on, who said much the same thing.
Well, Secretary Hegseth is absolutely right. This was a low-confidence preliminary intelligence assessment. The assessment itself said that it was not corroborated by anyone else in the intelligence community, and it has been disputed by not just the United States, the President, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, our Joint Chiefs, and our General Kane, who was incredibly successful in this mission on Saturday night. It was also disputed by both Israel and Iran. And CNN didn't.
What about the American intelligence community, like our spy satellites and like the CIA? You know, the people whose job it is. Like that. That's what those agencies are for. You control them. That's who. Why would you ask generals whether or not you succeeded in destroying a target? Do you think that the ability to like command soldiers translates into a surveillance of the battlefield? That's the job of the intelligence department. If the information propagated by CNN was false, why would it be illegal to distribute the information? It is. There's no way around this. If this, not this one. If this report was not true, they would not be so angry about it. It's that simple. They're just trying to convince Trump this report isn't true. Like when Stephen Miller very transparently tried to convince Trump that they had not been violating a Supreme Court order to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia back. That in fact the order said that they were fine to leave him there. Like they would not be freaking out, talking about prosecuting the leaker, talk about like fake news CNN, talking about it at the NATO summit, talking about it on Fox News, the president, everyone. They would not be rushing to dispute this if it wasn't true. Even the DOD is posting cope. Our pilots are warriors. Our sailors are warriors. Our soldiers are warriors. Operation Midnight Hammer was flawless and effective. It really is a humiliation ritual, man. It's crazy. I can't believe I live here. The founding father. I'm not a founding father poster, you know that, but like, there is a limit, man. Them asses rolling in their graves. Don't believe the fake news. Our warriors achieve their objective. Do you really think that they would issue a rapid response acknowledgement of the strike that includes a denunciation of the leak if the leak wasn't true? Why else would you even mention it? Why would you give it air? They're doing all of this to protect Trump from the truth.
Didn't care about that. The DIA themselves have now come out and said this was a preliminary report and this CNN story got it completely wrong. But that reporter is a sheep and she's a mouthpiece for people who don't like Donald Trump. And she only gave the White House an hour to respond. And that's, again, the same playbook we've seen the fake news media play time and time again. But this story has now been debunked widely by not just the United States, but also Iran and Israel as well.
All right, so there's the issue of reporting what was leaked, but then there's the idea of the leak itself. This was classified information. Here's what Steve Witkoff said about the leak.
Leaking that type of information, whatever the information, whatever side it comes out on, is outrageous. It's treasonous. So
yeah, man, this is how you react to false information.
Be investigated. There's no doubt that it was obliterated. So. The report,
listen, it was obliterated, okay, Trump. So don't talk about it anymore, okay?
Out there that in some ways suggests that we did not achieve the objective is just completely preposterous.
So Steve Witkoff says, and he's right in the middle of all of this and all these negotiations, said that this leak should be investigated. Will it be?
I am told by the FBI the leak already is being investigated, and it absolutely should be, because this was a top secret intelligence analysis that very few people in the United States government had access to see. And so I understand.
I thought it was fake. So, like, was it a preliminary intelligence report that got leaked, or was it fake? Because if it was a preliminary intelligence report and that actually was top secret, that means it was produced by the intelligence agency. Like, we have good intelligence agencies. We have very expensive satellites. Like, okay, this is gonna blow up in their face so much. Like, what are they gonna do when, like, a month from now, more and more reporters are catching on to this and they're like reporting like, hey, it looks like we have more evidence of additional refinement or whatever. Like, what are we gonna do? What's your plan long term?
Understand the FBI and the Department of Justice are already on this, as they should be. And just to emphasize what our great special envoy Witkoff said last night, for people with common sense, everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their targets. It doesn't take an intelligence analysis to understand that means complete and total destruction.
Absolutely remarkable. If the bombs were big, then it's done. God, the viewers are so stupid. I really do think this is like a level of low IQ authoritarianism that rivals any other in the world. I actually think like Russia is a more sophisticated and intelligently run authoritarian government by miles than this is like incredibly embarrassing. Seriously, this is the line we're going with? The bombs were big, how could it have possibly failed? So what you're telling me is that you don't have any intelligence to contradict the preliminary report that leaked.
An obliteration. And the president of the United States, because of his decisive leadership in directing that operation on Saturday night, has now achieved a goal that the United States and the whole world has wanted to achieve for years, and that's the obliteration of the capability of the Iranian regime to possess a nuclear weapon.
So there's one other question that remains out there, Caroline, and that's what happened to the nuclear material enriched to 60% that Iran already had in its possession? It's said to be about 900 pounds worth, enough for a number of bombs. The president believes that it was buried in one of those enrichment facilities. The director of the IAEA isn't so sure. Do you have evidence that you know exactly where it is?
I can tell you the United States had no indication that that enriched uranium was moved prior to the strikes, as I also saw falsely reported. But as for what's on the ground right now, it's buried under miles and miles of rubble because of the success of these strikes on Saturday evening. So anyone...
For one, miles. For two, really? We don't need to know where it is because it's like super duper blown up. Carolyn Levitt, you're smarter than this. I don't think you're stupid. I think you're just shockingly evil. Is this really the best you could come up with? Like, she's not smart? No, I believe that she is. I know that she gives a lot of signifiers of not being smart, but I think she's very smart. Yeah, is she just panicking? Is this actually like panicking? You're already lying. Why not just say, following intelligence reports have confirmed the complete annihilation of the nuclear material. The initial report is completely false and baseless, and it's ridiculous that we're even talking about this. Wouldn't that make more sense? Just that right there. That's not lying any more than any other lie. Like, she's lying more than the lie I just did, but the lie I just did would be way the less obviously fake. I don't know. I'm actually a bit like dumbfounded by this one. I'm not joking. I'm not trying to play this up for like the bit or the segment or whatever. I genuinely don't know what the long-term strategy is on keeping Trump from realizing that they didn't do anything.
Saying that they know just doesn't know. And what we do know is the capability of these weapons and the success of this strike, and the fact that the United States military hit their targets precisely, perfectly, and accurately. And we know what that means.
Well, again, David Albright, who's done this for a long time, knows what he's looking at, thinks that those bombs went down near ventilation shafts where the rock would have been less resistant than if you had just hit it out in the open. And he firmly believes that those centrifuge halls have been destroyed. So we'll see. Caroline Levitt, always great to catch up with you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
I don't know what the long-term strategy is here. I'm so curious as to how this is going to play out. Oh, there's the five talking about Mamdani, but they don't want to say his name. They don't want to say his name here. I'm sorry. I know I'm lingering on this topic a little more than I normally would because I've kind of already like made my point, but I really am like baffled by this one because remember how angry Trump was when he felt like his beautiful 12-day ceasefire was being threatened by Israel bombing Iran? How do you think he's going to act when he finds out this one? Or are they going to drop the information to him in a way like they'll keep him more calm?
We begin with this Fox News alert. President Trump just Iran's nuclear program might only be of the strikes, each one. Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy is near The Hague in Netherlands with more. Peter.
Harris, we can now report the FBI is investigating the leak of that Defense Intelligence Agency assessment that shows with low confidence the Iranian nuclear program was only set back by a number of months. We're also hearing from the Israeli side. They're saying that they believe, their intel shows, that the Iranian nuclear program was rendered inoperable. Iran's foreign minister says the program was badly damaged. And President Trump just explained what he has seen that leads him to believe that none of the enriched uranium actually left Fordo before the strikes.
Okay.
No, we just the opposite. We think we hit them so hard and so fast they didn't get to move. And if you knew about that material, it's very hard and very dangerous to move. It's called in many people they call it dust, but it's very, very heavy. It's very, very hard to move. And they were way down, you know,
It's a few 100 pounds of enriched uranium. Like, it's obviously not a big rock because it's being put through centrifuges. So it's in this, like, yeah, with the cake or like you can move it. They have trucks in Iran.
President Trump is also backing off his suggestion aboard Air Force One that he could soon abandon NATO's Article 5, the rule that requires all members to defend any member that gets attacked. And he thinks that after his strikes on Saturday and the fragile ceasefire that was negotiated afterwards, that there can be peace between Iran and Israel.
They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop.
Oh, you know that episode of SpongeBob where Squidward thinks SpongeBob has eaten a bomb and he tried to give him the best day ever and he doesn't know how to tell him? I feel like that's like eventually somebody's going to have a conversation with Trump, because otherwise this information is going to come to him in the form of a CNN reporter, and that will not make him happy.
Let him fight for about 2-3 minutes, then it's easy to stop him.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language to
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while you have to use a certain word.
And President Trump is now comparing the strikes that he ordered on Saturday in Iran to the strikes the U.S. carried out in World War II over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because
because he thinks he's Roosevelt. Isn't it crazy that, like, Trump would have been born right after World War II ended? Oh, Truman, yeah. Well, no, Truman ordered the bombs, but he probably wants to think of himself as Roosevelt. Actually, no. Who was it who messaged Trump and said, "You are like Truman"? Who was the guy who texted Trump and was like, God has given you the glorious Huckabee. That's right. Yeah, God has given you the opportunity, like Truman, to make this decision and so on. Yeah, he's carrying through with that. Yeah, I guess he does want to be Truman. Truman's an interesting guy.
he sees all three of them as ending a war in different ways. Harris?
Peter Doocy, thank you very much. Republican Senator Ted Cruz of the great state of Texas, member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Great to see you today on an important day for the country, for the president, with a lot of victories. First of all, let's start with the NATO summit and what pops to you as a huge moment.
Well, listen, I think the president had no meeting. Look,
saying significant damage could take them years to rebound, that sort of thing. When you look at all of that and you hear about this leak, and that's where we started, what does that tell you behind the scenes in this country, what's going on?
Look, the leak itself, I don't know the motivations behind that leak. I find the leak highly dubious. At the end of the day, we dropped a total of 14 bunker buster bombs. Each one of those is 30,000 pounds of explosives. They do devastating damage. They're the biggest non-nuclear bombs we have. And that effect on the face of it is going to be devastating. They were precise. They hit their targets. And not only.
Have you not gotten the message? The message is that subsequent intel reports have discredited the original leaked one. So you're also doing the, like, well, the bombs were big, so it must have worked thing. Man, I don't know what they're going to do. It's crazy. They clearly...
Only that, we had about 25 Tomahawk missiles as well. That combination, by almost any measure, would do devastating damage. Now, I'll tell you, in the Senate, we were supposed to have a classified briefing yesterday on the precise readout of the attack. That briefing got moved to later this week, so I have not...
Yeah, it is true that they have been delaying briefing the Senate Intel Committee on what took place in Iran. Like, there have been, what, 2 delays now? Was it just one? Because Schumer was complaining about one the other day. So I think they've delayed it multiple times, which is not reassuring.
Not yet attended the classified briefing, but I will this week. I'm sure we're going to ask in the classified setting, what do we know specifically about what was hit, what happened to the enriched uranium, what the state of the centrifuges is. I don't know the answers to those questions yet, but we will presumably find them all out as soon as we have the classified briefing.
That's great information, because there was so much confusion yesterday about what was going on, and the left was decidedly playing politics with the moment. And none of it was helpful, but we do know now there's a target for Thursday in terms of resuming that. So real quickly, talk to me about what's, foreign relations. Talk to me about what's possible as next steps in all of this.
Well, listen, I think eliminating Iran's nuclear weapon capability is massively important. In my view, the single most acute national security threat America faced is the threat of a nuclear Iran. I think China is the greatest long-term geopolitical threat, but in terms of an acute threat, the Ayatollah, when he chants death to America, I believe him. When he calls America the great Satan, I believe him. And one of the
me too. All right, that's enough. I have no idea how this is going to resolve. I have no clue. I have no idea. I look forward to seeing this all play out, I suppose. It's going to blow the fuck up. I mean, something is.